Before we get into this, if you're not subscribed yet, now is the time. Because what we're about to talk about connects a name from the history books directly to what you watched on the news last night. And if you've been around long enough to remember what American politics looked like before it looked like this one is going to hit differently. Hit subscribe, turn on the bell. Let's go. In 1950, Meyer Lansky needed a favor from a politician. So he did what Lansky did. He made it worth their while. Cash, discreet, no paperwork. The politician understood the arrangement. The favor was delivered. Nobody talked about it publicly because nobody needed to. Everyone involved understood the rules. Here is what is remarkable about that story in 2024. The direct cash payment, the explicit exchange of money for political favor, is illegal. And yet the thing that Lansky was doing, paying money to political figures to obtain favorable outcomes, is happening today at a scale that would have made his head spin. It is happening legally. It is happening in the open. It is in fact protected by the Constitution of the United States. Think about what you remember from the first time you voted. You believed in the basic accountability of the thing, that politicians who wanted your vote had to face you and ask for it. That architecture has been dismantled. Legally, one court decision at a time. Those who remember Watergate remember what it felt like when that basic accountability was violated. You remember the investigations. You remember Sam Ervin and Howard Baker, and the question that cut through everything. What did the president know, and when did he know it? You remember thinking that the system had worked. That accountability was real. What was not visible in the 1970s was that the people who had lost in Watergate's aftermath were not going away. They were building something. They were funding think tanks and advocacy organizations and legal foundations. They were working patiently and methodically through the courts and the regulatory agencies and the legislative process to dismantle the reforms that had been enacted in the wake of Watergate's revelations, the campaign finance reforms, the lobbying disclosure requirements, the post-Watergate ethics rules, all of it, brick by brick, court case by court case, over 30 years. In 2010, they succeeded. In 2010, the Supreme Court decided Citizens United versus Federal Election Commission. The decision held that corporations and non-profits have a constitutional right to spend unlimited amounts of money on political activity, as long as that spending is not directly coordinated with a candidate's campaign. Before Citizens United, there were limits. After Citizens United, there were not. The limits that your generation fought for, through campaigns and investigations and the post-Watergate reforms of the 1970s, were erased in a single Supreme Court decision. The dark money dimension adds a further layer. Certain non-profit organizations, classified under Section 501(c)(4) of the tax code as social welfare organizations, are permitted to engage in political activity without disclosing their donors. These organizations can raise unlimited funds from any source, spend those funds on political activity, and maintain complete anonymity about where the money came from. In the 2020 election cycle, dark money spending exceeded $1 billion for the first time in American history. $1 billion, invisible to voters. Now consider what Lansky was doing when he paid that politician in 1950. Same structure, same goal, different legality. Both systems solve one problem. How do people with money translate that money into political outcomes without a traceable record? Lansky's solution was cash, envelopes, and the code of silence. The modern solution is 501(c)(4), non-profits, complex multi-entity donation structures, and the legal protection of donor anonymity. The method changed. The goal did not. Here is where it becomes personal. Think about the medication you take every month. The Medicare prescription drug bill of 2003 prohibited the federal government from negotiating drug prices, meaning the government that buys more prescription drugs than any entity on earth cannot negotiate a lower price for its beneficiaries. That provision was shaped by an industry that spent over $100 million on political activity. You have been paying the difference every month at the pharmacy for 20 years. For medications that cost a fraction of what you pay in every other developed country on Earth. That is not an accident. That is the system working as designed. Think about what happened to your retirement savings in 2008. Think about the people your age, people who had worked their entire adult lives saving carefully for retirement, who lost a significant portion of what they had built because of decisions made in Washington by people who answered to donors rather than to voters. And then think about the fact that the political spending that shaped the regulatory environment allowing that crisis to happen was substantially invisible to the people who suffered its consequences. Think about every time you've looked at a prescription bill and felt that sick feeling in your stomach. Every time you've thought, someone made this decision. Somebody decided that I should pay this much. Who decided? And who paid them to decide? That question, who paid them, is exactly what the dark money system is specifically designed to make unanswerable. The anonymity is not a side effect. It is the product. The architecture is built around the unanswerable quality of that question. Lansky understood this better than anyone. He spent 60 years ensuring that the question of who paid him to do what he did was unanswerable in any court. The modern dark money system uses the same logic at 1,000 times the scale, with legal protection and constitutional blessing. The American Legislative Exchange Council, ALEC, writes model legislation for state legislatures across the country on issues ranging from voting rights to environmental regulation to pharmaceutical pricing. The corporations whose interests the legislation serves are not required to disclose that they funded the organization that wrote it. This is the casino scheme applied to democracy. Money goes in one side. Favorable legislative outcomes come out the other. The connection is deliberately obscured. In 2020, dark money organizations spent over $600 million on judicial nominations, on campaigns to confirm federal judges who would be favorable to specific interpretations of the law, including, not coincidentally, the interpretation of campaign finance law that had produced Citizens United in the first place. The system funding its own perpetuation. Lansky would have found this elegant. He would have recognized this system immediately. He built its grandfather in hotel rooms on the Lower East Side, with envelopes and handshakes, and the understanding that favors flow toward money, and money flows toward power. And the paperwork, above all, should be kept to a minimum. The paperwork is still kept to a minimum. The envelopes are legal now. The amounts are 1,000 times larger, and the people paying them have constitutional protection that Lansky never had. You were not paranoid for suspecting that the game was rigged. You were paying attention. The game was rigged. It was just rigged legally, one court decision at a time, by people who had the patience and the resources to wait it out. And now you have a name for the architecture. Meyer Lansky invented the prototype. The lawyers built the rest. If what you just heard made you angry, good. That is the right response. It should. Subscribe and turn on notifications. Every episode goes deeper into this. The next one is already coming. Don't miss it.